As dawn bled across the sky, a strange silence cloaked Umuofia. The kind of silence that hinted not at peace but at something hiding, watching, preparing. But by the Nedi River, there was no silence. There was a storm. And in it I stood Brother Chinedu. Lightning flared behind him, casting his silhouette across the turbulent river like a statue of defiance carved by the gods. The air around him crackled, not with electricity, but with divine presence. His voice rose above the wind. I come not in my name, but in the name of He who owns all waters, all winds, and all wombs. The sky answered with thunder. Mami Eda emerged again, not as a woman, but as an embodiment of every marine covenant ever made in lust and ignorance. Her face shimmered between beauty and horror, her limbs flowing like river weed, her voice a melody and a curse. You are not welcome here, son of dry lands, she whispered. Return, or drown. Chinedu stepped forward, cross-raised. Your throne is over men who have no light. I carry fire. Come and taste it. The river swirled unnaturally as spirits screamed beneath its surface. Faces emerged from the waves, villagers, dead and alive, trapped in her domain. Their mouths moved in silent agony. Mami Eda raised her hands and the drowned men rose behind her like an army. Their eyes glowed, and their skins were marked with her sigil, the inverted crescent. Chinedu knelt. From his throat erupted tongues, a language too ancient for man, too holy for demons. By the blood of the Lamb. By the covenant of light. Let every captive soul be loosed. A blast of light exploded from his chest, throwing back the spirit army. Mami Eda screamed, her voice fracturing the air. Trees split. The river began to boil. But Chinedu did not stop. He opened his Bible. He read, Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. The river turned red. I shall fear no evil. A roar rose from beneath the water as something ancient stirred, a deeper power Mami Eda had never meant to awaken. And now, even she was afraid. The trial of fire and blood. Chinedu reached into his satchel and pulled out 3 items, a flask of anointing oil, a strip of torn sackcloth, and a bundle of yam tubers, offerings of repentance from the few men who had resisted her call. He anointed the earth. He tore the sackcloth and laid it in the water. He raised the yams high. These are the seeds of this land. They will no longer feed your altars. Mami Eda lunged, her arms transforming into vines of riding serpents. They struck. But before they touched Chinedu, a wall of fire erupted around him. From the flames stepped a figure robed in lightning. An angel. The villagers watching from afar fell to their knees. Even those who had doubted, who had mocked, now wept openly. Do not fear, Chinedu, the angel said. The Lord is your banner. Chinedu stepped forward, through the fire, through the storm, until he stood upon the water. And then, he spoke the final command. River, vomit what you have swallowed. The ground shook. Men began to rise from the water, coughing, crying, gasping for air, Obina among them, his once golden eyes now dim with realization. Mami Eda screamed one last time. She began to dissolve, not into death, but into mourning. You were the first to cast me out, she whispered to Chinedu. You who carry fire. You remind me of what I once was. And with that, she vanished into mist. The river calmed. The sky cleared. And Brother Chinedu fell to his knees, not in exhaustion, but in worship. The battle was won. But the war for Umuofia's soul was far from over. The dawn that followed the battle was different. Not just lighter, but cleaner. The sky wore a softer hue, and the morning birds, silent during the chaos, sang with renewed vigor. A gentle mist clung to the riverbanks, but there was no longer menace in it. Instead, it felt like breath, the breath of something reborn. Yet, the village of Umuofia was not whole. Those who had been delivered returned like shadows of themselves, haunted, hollow, yet somehow awakened. Obinna walked through the village square barefoot, his once prideful steps now unsure. His compound, built with the spoils of accursed wealth, stood like a monument to regret. The laughter of his wives had ceased. His goats refused to eat. And when he looked at his reflection in a calabash of water, he saw not a man, but a void where purpose used to live. Women peeked from behind raffia blinds as the men who had vanished reappeared. There were gasps, there were tears, but there was also fear. "What if they are still hers?" an elder woman whispered. Some of the men bore strange marks, burns where the sigil had once been. Others had seizures when holy water touched them. Brother Chinedu moved from house to house, praying over each man, baptizing them in the name of the one he served. But with each deliverance, a piece of him seemed to fade. He was pouring from a vessel that had only so much to give. And then the resistance came. The local herbalist, Dibia Ogwefai, whose influence had waned since Chinedu's arrival, stood at the village square with a crowd of followers. "This man has brought chaos," he declared. "The river kept our peace. The spirits blessed our crops. Now, see how the rains delay and the market spoils." A few villagers murmured in agreement. Chief Nokeji, once among the richest men in Umuofia, his wealth fattened by marine rituals and hidden altars, emerged to support Ogwefai. "This Chinedu must be exiled," he said, "before he calls down fire upon us all." A council was summoned. And just as quickly as he had been embraced, Brother Chinedu stood accused of blasphemy, of disturbing ancestral peace, of stealing the hearts of men. He listened in silence. Then he stood. "My mission is not peace that enables wickedness," he said. "It is truth that burns falsehood. If that offends you, so be it. But I will not stop until every altar to Mami Ada is torn down, every blood pact broken, and every heart reclaimed." The crowd murmured again. Then, a woman stepped forward. Her name was Mama Ebiub, the widow who had lost 3 sons to the river's core. Her voice shook, but her eyes were firm. "Let him stay," she said. "Because for the first time in 20 years, I slept without hearing my boys cry in my dreams." One by one, others joined her. The carpenter who had been mute since his son vanished. The palm wine tapper whose wife once danced with spirits. The children who no longer had nightmares. And Umuofia was divided, not by faith, but by fear. Chinedu wept at night, not for himself, but for what still remained hidden. The deepest roots of Mami Ada's influence were not in the river. They were in the hearts of men who still wanted what she promised. Power, wealth, control. And such hearts do not surrender easily. The sun rose slowly over Umuofia, as if reluctant to touch a land still carrying secrets. The mist over the Nedi River had thickened again. It did not roll with the wind as mist should, but sat heavy, clinging to the water like breath withheld. It was not Mommy Ada, not yet, but it was something seeded from her, watered by broken covenants and half-hearted deliverances. And the children began to change. First came the dreams. Strange dreams shared by many at once. Dreams of being underwater, where light bent strangely and voices came not from mouths, but from eyes. Then came the drawings. Children who had never held a pencil began to etch things into the sand, spirals within spirals, eyes within mouths, serpents swimming in circles that never ended. A boy named Emeka drew a perfect replica of Mommy Ada's inverted crescent in the mud outside his father's hut. When asked how he knew it, he simply said, "She showed me." Brother Chinedu, still healing from the battle at the river, received whispers from the Spirit in his moments of deep prayer. Whispers of a seed not yet uprooted. A generational root. He gathered the elders. Deliverance was only the beginning, he said. The covenant must be broken at its foundation. And that foundation now walks among us in the flesh of our children. The elders were disturbed. Some denied it, insisting their children were only playing. Others, like Mama Ebiub, remembered the old stories of how Mommy Ada had once been a mortal child too. In the outskirts of Umuofia, near the forbidden grove where palm trees grew in unnatural spirals, a small hut stood that none remembered building. Inside were 7 children. They spoke little. They ate only at night. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and their laughter came in perfect unison, never staggered. An old woman named Jurema had found them. She said they called her nurse, though she had no memory of bearing them. She fed them, clothed them, even sang them lullabies she didn't know she knew. And every dawn, the children would vanish into the trees. When Brother Chinedu arrived at the hut, he collapsed to his knees. The air was thick with marine enchantment. But it wasn't aggressive. It was seductive. Familiar. It almost made him forget who he was. He cried out, "Spirit of truth, descend upon this place. Let the veil be torn." The air shimmered. The children stood in a circle, their eyes now white as bone. And one stepped forward. A girl. Maybe 7 years old. Her voice was that of a woman full grown. "You took her from the water, but not from the womb. We are what she left behind." Chinedu trembled. "You are not forgotten children. You are not evil. You can be set free." The girl smiled sadly. "We do not wish to be free. We wish to reign." And with that, the mist outside turned red. The second covenant. Chief Nokeji, who had once opposed Chinedu's ministry, had begun secret rites again. In the forest behind his compound, a second altar had been raised, not to Mommy Ada, but to Noni Miri, the goddess of tides and time, Mommy Ada's predecessor. "She is gone, but her power can remain," he whispered into the night. "And this time, it will belong to the adults who know how to use it." He had begun initiating children, the most sensitive, the most broken, the most neglected. He promised them dreams. He fed them sweet meat soaked in river blood. He gave them new names. And slowly, a new generation of water-bearers was rising. The baptism of fire. Brother Chinedu returned to the riverbank. But this time, he did not come alone. Behind him were 77 women, mothers, widows, barren women, women who had lost to the river. Each carried salt, ashes, and palm fronds. They formed a circle and began to wail. Not cries of mourning, but groans of war. The heavens stirred. The river hissed. And the children came, led by the girl with the grown woman's voice. Chinedu raised his hand. You are not enemies. You are captives. And today, the jailer loses her keys. The mothers wept harder. The air thickened. And for a moment, the girl flinched. From the heavens came a sound, a trumpet. Or thunder. Then light. A column of fire descended, splitting the mist. The children fell to the ground, twitching, convulsing, screaming. The women held them. They did not let go. And one by one, the spirits screamed as they left. The girl smiled. It's warm, she said. I remember now. I was loved once. Chinedu collapsed. But not in exhaustion. In victory. The second covenant was broken. Night fell upon Umuofia like a heavy curtain, thick, silent, foreboding. But it was not the night of old. Not the darkness that cradled lovers or calmed infants. This was a pregnant night, swollen with the cries of hidden things, the groans of power shifting in unseen chambers. The river had stilled. Too still. Even the frogs refused to croak. The breeze halted mid-step, and smoke from hearts called straight into the air like question marks to heaven. Deep within the sacred forest, Ohia and So, Chief Nokeji stood cloaked in crimson feathers and serpent skins. He was not alone. Around him danced a dozen acolytes, all clad in black, their faces painted with marine sigils. Laid out on a slab of granite was a girl, not older than 10. Bound. Silent. Tears flowing. Her name was Chika. She was to be the vessel. The resurrection rite was about to begin. Nokeji began the incantations. Ancient Igbo verses. Long forgotten by most. Banned by the elders. Words not meant for human mouths. Odi-MMA. Odi-Ndu. Oliolumiri Noya Oku. Come forth, O Mother of the River. Thunder grumbled in a sky that had no clouds. The earth cracked beneath the altar. From beneath Chika's body, water began to seep, fresh water, dark and warm. Then came the voice. Not loud, but eternal. Who dares awaken me with stolen blood? Mami Ada had not died. She had only gone dormant. And now, through Chika's tears, her spirit stirred. At the edge of the forest, Brother Chinedu knelt in the sand. His hands trembled. He had not eaten in 3 days. He had not spoken in 2. The spirit had told him to wait. And now, the silence was broken. The children came running. Chika was missing. The forest was pulsing. And Chinedu rose. He wore a robe of white. But over it, a cloak of ash. He bore no weapon, only a staff carved from olive wood and dipped in the salt of 7 rivers. With him walked Mama Ebiub and the 77 mothers. Their eyes burned with divine madness. The showdown. Nokeji saw them approach and laughed. You bring women to a god's fight. Chinedu raised his staff. No. I bring mothers to reclaim what the gods stole. The ground shook. Trees split. The sky darkened. And from Chika's chest, a column of water shot into the sky, twisting, screaming, forming the shape of Mommy Ada. She had returned. But only partially. "Give me your fire, preacher," she whispered, "or watch them all drown." Chinedu's staff ignited, not with flame, but with light. He stepped forward. Tears in his eyes. "Then take me instead." He laid the staff down. And walked into the water. The women screamed. The forest howled. Nokeji began chanting faster, desperate. But it was too late. The sacrifice. As Chinedu entered the swirling waters, he stretched out his arms. He began to sing. A hymn not heard in Umuofia for generations. Chinik, biae nia oni. God, come help us. The light from his body burst into 1,000 tongues. It pierced the clouds. It seared the sigils. The river screamed. Mommy Ada howled. And the waters turned to wine-red smoke. Chika fell to the ground, free. Nokeji burst into flames, his body consumed by the spirits he called. Chinedu was gone. But the mist had lifted. Forever. Epilogue: the river sleeps. Years passed. Children played by the river again. Not one had dreams of underwater eyes. Not one drew sigils in the sand. The hut in the forest rotted and collapsed. The sacred grove grew quiet. And a new shrine was built, not to any goddess, but to the man who gave his life. A plaque reads, "Here lies the one who burned the water with truth." And every year, on the night the river first turned red, the mothers gather. They light candles. They sing. They remember. The war had ended. But the story would live forever.